from the College by the Lake, Coraline, Idaho. Local, regional, national, and international guests discussing the issues and topics affecting the way you live are on Forum, the North Idaho College Public Forum, with your host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart.
Each year, North Idaho College, in conjunction with the Coraline School District, has a very, very fine program they put together. It is a contest in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And at the two high schools in Coraline, there is an essay contest, and the winners come on this program to read their works and discuss them that have to do with human rights. And today we want to bring that program. This took place in January. We'll be airing it at a later date, but we certainly want to share these gifted students with you and their thoughts about human rights. In order to accomplish that, I want to first welcome to the program Doug Cresswell, who is the superintendent of School District 271 in Idaho, which is the Coraline area. And Doug, you have brought with you today the two winners, one from Lake City High School and one from Coraline High School. And we are very pleased to continue this program, and we want to congratulate the two young women who are here. I would introduce, first of all, Melanie Shelton, who is from the Lake City High School. And Melanie, we congratulate you on being the essay winner there. And our second guest is Christine Burton, who is at Coraline High School, and we too want to congratulate you on your essay. We commend you and the other students who participate in that program, and we'll be interviewing both of you along with the superintendent. As always, I'm very pleased to have our regular panel with me, and first of all is Janelle Burke, who is an attorney in the state of Idaho, and next to her is Steve Schenck, who is the Dean of College Relations and Development at North Idaho College, and I shall ask Janelle to commence today's questioning.
Superintendent Cresswell, as Tony said in his introductory remarks, the Coeur d'Alene School District, in conjunction with North Idaho College, has presented a program on Martin Luther King Day. Can you tell us about what the district has done in the years past?
Well, let me say, first of all, the Coeur d'Alene School District is committed to human rights and promoting human rights and educating all children in our school districts on the importance of human rights for all groups of people. But in addition to that, around Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King Day, kind of that period, maybe a week before Martin Luther King's birthday, a week after, we ask all classrooms and all schools in the Coeur d'Alene School District to do something in the way of recognizing and commemorating the life and history and work of Dr. Martin Luther King. Most of our schools then in our class do have school-wide assemblies around that time. In addition to that, like I say, there's education and instruction occurring in every classroom. In addition to that then, along with the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations, we sponsor an assembly, Martin Luther King Day Children's Program at North Idaho College. And so those are the major activities that we're involved in.
And I just interrupt to add a footnote too, that at the children's program we also work with all the students in the 5th grade, not only in Coeur d'Alene, but at the Post-Fall School District, and this year Plummer Worley was involved too.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I want to ask Christine now a little bit so that our viewers can get to know you. What are some of your interests? How old are you? What grade are you in school? And what are some of your interests?
Well, I'm 16 years old. I'm a junior at Coeur d'Alene, and I'm in the select choir there.
Are you a debater also?
No, I'm not in debate.
But you like performing arts, I think you told us before.
Yeah, I'm in drama. I like the theater program there. Mm-hmm. I went to state and district drama. I just like performing.
So you have a real interest in a lot of things that have to do with the fine arts.
Yeah.
And Melanie, you are a student at Lake City High School, and can you tell us how old you are and something about your interests?
I'm 17, and I've been on the debate team for 3 years, and that's a very time-consuming activity, so I spend a lot of time working on that and going to tournaments, and I also have a job which is very time-consuming, but I do just basically that and read books. And
are you a junior?
Yes.
So you are finishing up your junior year this semester
Right.
at Lake City. Do you have plans for the future, hopes for the future?
Yeah, well, at first my close term goals are to graduate high school and then go on to college and study for, I'm not exactly sure what. I know a bunch of like little things that I want to study, but not what I want to major in. But eventually I want to go work for some sort of grassroots like women's rights organization.
And Melanie, how about you? Or Christina, how about you? What kinds of things do you want to do in the future?
Well, I want to go to college, and I don't know, I probably want to major in theatrical arts and maybe minor in music because I love to sing. And I also like French and biology. Maybe, I don't know, if I don't do anything in the performing arts, I'd want to do something like physical therapy or vocal therapy with small children.
Steve
Like
Shink.
that.
Well, I'd like to find out just a little bit more about the contest that you won. And I'm assuming in addition to winning the opportunity to be on this show, you also each got a new car or a world cruise. But I'm confident that that wasn't the reason that you decided to write your essays. Christine, we'll start with you. What motivated you to write the winning essay?
Oh, well, I don't know. My teacher had it up on the board, and she just had it open to everyone. And I was thinking about doing it, and I don't know, I kind of thought about it throughout the week, and then the day before it was due, I sat down and wrote it.
Nothing like getting ahead of those assignments. How about you, Melanie? What was your motivation?
Well, first of all, Terry wanted me to do it, our debate coach, and I was doing it for her and for me because I have things to say and I want people to hear what I have to say, and this is obviously a good way for people to hear what I have to say.
That's great. That's great.
I had promised you before the show, and I know the viewers will be pleased with this, that you've won an essay contest, and it would just not be appropriate to have the program without you reading those essays, and we're going to take time to do that, and I know the panel will want to join, and Doug will want to respond to your words, and we'll ask you what some of your beliefs and feelings are. But I think I shall start with Melanie, and would you at this time read us your essay from the Lake City High School contest?
Okay. Sometimes as a nation, we forget that we are a nation of many nations. As much as we try to recognize all the different cultures in our nation, we as Americans continually fall back onto the Christian values that are so prominent in our culture. As we do this, though, we forget that all the other cultures that are made up of our country are just as valid as the Christian one that we cherish and base everything from our policy making to our family life on. Yes, we do have Hanukkah on the calendars, but we do not recognize all the other cultures as much as we do the Christian one. By doing this, we make it seem as if the many cultures of our country are not as important. This undermines what America is all about. We are looking at the many cultures in our country as if seeing it from the outside, like they're something we recognize, but still not as important or as valid as the Christian culture that our country is known for. To better establish our culture, we need to learn to utilize all the other cultures we have in our country as we have for Christianity. We need to not base everything we do, foreign or domestic, on Christianity, but also look at the way things are done in other cultures in our country. Cultural unity is a very hard thing for our nation to attain. The people are not uniting themselves by the many cultures, but instead using self-imposed segregation and separating by means of culture and making places such as Chinatown when we should be acting like the melting pot that this country is supposed to be, and having the American culture not be solely based on the Christian culture, but of all the cultures we consist of. I was born an American and have lived here all my life. I have rejected the fact that I've been limited to one single Christian value, which is based upon greed, homophobia, and misogynism. That I want to build a new culture for America, one that is not based on one religion or culture, but one that consists of all of the ones of our country. I want everyone to be united by the many cultures that make up America and not be isolated by them.
Now we will turn to Christine, and if you'll read us your essay.
Okay. A dark misshapen form lies unmoving upon a stained patch of grass, a mere semblance of humanity. But which is less humane, this abandoned crime scene or the white hooded group which abandoned it? How many countless times had this occurred? How many faceless people have wondered or mourned? A terrified family flees from their vandalized home through their burning lawn. Rocks are thrown from invisible hands. All of this for lighting 8 candles. Are these horrible and grotesque scenes the only evidence we have of group cooperation? Can only evil and hatred unite us? A week later, the same family marches proudly down the street. Where are their oppressors now? They dare not approach this procession. A whole community, sick and disgusted with injustice, follows them. Some have also been equally victimized, but the rest are not sharing of their faith, but in a hope. a hope that's united in a body of all to protect the defenseless and care for the loveless, to let the scales fall from our eyes and view humanity without its superficial layer, to understand that we are all similar amongst our differences and need the same things, to make friend a part of everyone's vocabulary. These are the kinds of things that we should and can accomplish together. Many people grow up dreaming to make a difference in this world. This is a goal that everyone can achieve. Some, however, have great audacity to assume the challenge alone and refute all attempts of others to help them. This is foolish because no man is an island. Even if you try, there's always waves lapping at your shore. Great historical figures always had their behind-the-scenes men, even the martyrs. If martyrs can gain timeless worldwide influence, just imagine what an organization of living, breathing people can do, striving for the same cause. I have a dream. This is a statement that everyone holds synonymous with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement. For many people, that's all that comes to mind, however. What about the hundreds of thousands of nameless followers? The ones that marched willingly and peacefully numerous times singing, "We shall overcome," straight into police barricades armed with dogs and fire hoses. The same ones that suffered the emotional scars and frustration of segregation and the embarrassment and injustice of inequality and disassociation from the white community. These are the heroes of equality and freedom. Dr. King was merely their leader. Together we shall overcome.
Thank you both for reading your essays for us. I have one question, and then I shall return to the panel. Your superintendent has indicated that the month of January in particular is the time when we start focusing on a lot of the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the holiday in January is in his honor for his work in human rights. And he was a very dedicated and very bright man. He held a doctor's degree in theology, was a very deeply religious man, and was a pastor of a church in Atlanta, Georgia. He also received a lot of his thinking processes from Gandhi, who was a leader in India, and both were nonviolent, peaceful leaders. And with that just very brief background, I would start with you, Christine. In addition to the essay that you entered as a contest, what would you like to say about, in respect to this holiday, the thinkings of Dr. King? What have you learned from his life?
Well, I don't know. I learned about him a lot when I was in elementary school. I went to school in California in southeast San Diego, which is the best part of town. And I really found out what it is to be a minority because, everyone else, they say the minorities are the Hispanics and African Americans, but as a Caucasian, I found that I was the minority in that neighborhood, and I was only one out of two others that were bused into the area to help integrate. And every year we had marches down the street on Martin Luther King Day, and all the classrooms made signs and had speeches, and I learned a lot from that. And that's probably, I don't think many people get that kind of opportunity to learn like that.
And I'd ask you the same question.
I think the most important thing that I've learned from him is tolerance for that racist people, not wanting to go out there and punch them or something, to be able to deal with them in a non-violent way, just with speaking to them and not having to use violence. I mean, not that I would want to, but knowing that there is another way to go around things besides violence, and that non-violence actually does work, and it is something that people should be using versus violence to get what they want.
Janelle Burke.
I'm going to start again with Superintendent Creswell. We are living in a rapidly changing time. We're living in a time when a number of people are frustrated. They don't know how to deal with what's going on around them. What kinds of things is the school district teaching now in terms of helping students to cope with that frustration, with violence, with the things that are going on in their lives? Unity, peace. What kinds of things is the school district doing to help students come to live with their circumstances?
Well, I think, I think through, our social studies programs, I think probably through our counseling programs, both of our high schools do have human rights clubs, They do have, at most of our schools now in the district, peer mediation kinds of programs. And so I think there are a whole variety of things that we're doing to give our young students some assistance and some help at dealing with, like you say, a very changing society.
What is a peer mediation program?
Well, basically, it's where peers would receive some special training to assist other students when there's conflicts between students, and so rather than an adult intervening, why a peer then can be called on to help mediate, maybe some kind of a conflict between two students or more.
Now I want to turn to the students and ask them, first of all, what kind of training have you experienced, or have you experienced any training? Perhaps you just know friends who've experienced training in various kinds of programs that would promote diversity. Let's start with you, Melanie, this time.
I haven't gone through any training. Well, I was in like Natural Helpers in
Yes.
middle school, which I thought that was a good program, and they still have that in high school, but I haven't done it then. But other than that, I just, from self-teaching, nothing besides that.
And can you explain what Natural Helpers is, that kind of a program?
It's there's a bunch of kids from the school that are picked by their peers who are like good listeners, or people that like help other people out, and all these kids go to a retreat. I'm not sure exactly where it is, and there's also teachers that are picked by the peers, and they go there and they learn about tolerance and being able to help people with their problems without like interjecting their own advice, but just like helping people like help themselves and solve their own problems and such things like that.
Okay. And what about you, Christina? Have you had some experiences along that line, or know someone who has?
I have friends who have been in the Natural Helpers program, but I haven't done it or any other things like that.
What do you think that now young people are more interested in diversity? Do you think they're more accepting of diversity than they have been in times past?
I think that since there's so much media now, that people at my age are exposed more to the world that they're not an immediate part of, and people can be more liberal and open-minded about that, and not necessarily know anyone, from a different situation or lifestyle from theirs, but they can usually think open-minded. But it really depends on the person and the kind of household they grow up in.
And what about you, Melanie? What is your opinion about that?
I think that kids do have more tolerance towards like different races, like on racial issues, but there's still like if somebody dresses different than you or has a different hair color, I mean, there's still like no tolerance for things like that. Like people get like treated differently or yelled at or something if they don't dress with like baggy shorts and a jersey on. I mean, at least that happens at my school, and I think that in that area that it hasn't changed at all.
Steve Sheen.
Well, let me start by congratulating both of you on the quality of your essays, and Doug on the quality of your students. I'm more disappointed than ever that before the show both these young ladies said they were going to go somewhere other than North Idaho College, but we've got another year to try to turn that around. A quick question for you as background. What's the minority enrollment in the two high schools in Coeur d'Alene?
We have a very small minority population in our schools. I would guess that it's in the neighborhood of 1%.
That's about the same as North Idaho College, frankly, and that brings my second question. I was interested in Christine's comments about living in Southern California, and I wanted to ask Melanie if she'd had any experience outside the Coeur d'Alene area with cultural diversity.
I used to live in Prosser, Washington, which is a very small town, but most of the inhabitants of it are of Hispanic. So I was actually the minority there, but it was when I was really little, so I don't really remember that much.
Well, that is interesting to me that both of you had some significant contact and actually had some role reversal from the norm. Most of us are minorities. Most Caucasians in this country are comfortably in the majority position all their lives. Do you think that prompted you to? Did that have any bearing on the essays that you wrote, those experiences that you had earlier in your lives? Christine?
Yeah, it helps you appreciate, you you don't know what it's like to be, not having, they're trying to get equal rights, it's balancing out, but you don't really get to appreciate being the minority until you are one. You can't really sympathize.
Melanie, did it have an impact on your essay?
Not on my essay, but when I was younger, it did help me to have more tolerance for other racial people of different races, because when I come back to Coeur d'Alene, it's a predominantly white county, and it helped me a lot when I came back because I had all the I was around mostly Hispanic children when I was in Prosser, and then coming back to Coeur d'Alene and not having any, but I still kept with me what I learned, and it still helps me now to have more tolerance and whatever.
Doug, do you think that the fact that Coeur d'Alene schools have such a low minority enrollment is one of the reasons why programs like the essay contest are important?
I think it is. You're absolutely right. With our small minority population, our students aren't exposed to a lot of cultural diversity. So I think it is important that we take a more active role in educating kids and giving them opportunities to deal and learn about cultural diversity.
I know there's never enough time and even less money, but are there other programs that you'd like to see instituted that would help with that effort?
I think always there are programs, and there's more that we can do. Not any particular one right now that comes to mind. Of course, we're always in the business of needing to balance academics against other kinds of social programs.
Doug, I'd like to talk with you just a moment about the curriculum. You certainly have a number of subjects and courses you just indicated that you have to pursue, and for example, at the high school level, and a certain number of units that they must complete. But as they're doing that, I've talked with some of your educators, and they're involved with this particular type of programs, getting ready for certain events and programs in Martin Luther King Day. They're very involved in kids voting, which is, Idaho's very involved with that. Here in North Idaho, it's where it started. In this particular state, the whole program started in Arizona, but could you share with us in a little more detail not only what your teachers are doing, I guess it's K through 12, dealing with certain human rights issues, but also kids voting. How do all of these special programs fit into helping a young person understand about democracy and participating in the process and being, along with their expertise in the field someday, a good citizen?
Well, probably, as far as human rights and the whole civil rights issue, we made a special effort when we adopted our social studies curriculum last adoption to make sure that civil rights units were incorporated into our social studies curriculum. So I guess that's really where we start. But in addition to that, it's the special kinds of programs around Martin Luther King Day. It's the human rights clubs and their activities, I think, and that probably do the most to help promote human rights and respect for others.
My follow-up question is that I admire some of your administrators that I know, like principals, and I'm thinking of a discussion with one in particular where she becomes involved in helping the teachers if there's a misunderstanding or a discussion that illustrates that some young person doesn't understand and appreciate other races of people and so forth. And then she also indicated that she also has a willingness to talk with parents to try to bring everyone together and understanding the difference between supporting people of different races and colors and religions and so forth. Can you elaborate on that, how the administrators help with the teachers in that process and work with the parents?
Well, I think, all of our schools have counselors. All of our schools, of course, have administrators. I think they're all very conscious about, the importance of differing diversity and differing points of view. And, on an individual basis, I can just tell you philosophically we're committed to all of our staff, supporting and assisting students when those differences occur.
And I should, I guess, announce to our people that our superintendent has announced that he's going to retire, and so next year will not be in this particular position. I want, if the panel will permit me, to take one more advantage, although certainly, Doug, you can come back in other capacities on the program. But I'd like for you to take this opportunity to talk about, from your perspective, and working for years with you, and you're also a board member of the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations. What would you say to the audience about our Constitution and its amendments that promote equality and freedom? And I would like to give you this opportunity to your personal philosophy in support of the dignity of all persons.
Well, I think, I think this is a great nation that we live in, and certainly our Constitution and our Bill of Rights and, those protections that are afforded us through that are what makes our nation great. Certainly, I'm a real believer in democracy. I'm a real believer in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, the protections it's afforded, and the freedoms that it affords. And I think, that's really the basis for the acceptance of diverse populations and ethnic and religious differences, and a respect protects us as far as a respect for, all others, no matter what their beliefs.
And one follow-up question. As we look towards the future, certainly as an educator yourself, one of the things educators attempt to do is to anticipate what may be down the road and what students need in training and also philosophically. We're getting fairly short on time, but what do you foresee? Are you optimistic in this arena that we've been talking about?
I am. I thought that our children's program, Norm Gissel, in his remarks, made some very good points. He talked about, the history, essentially, of the civil rights movement in this country and the different civil rights issues that different generations have dealt with, and he kind of challenged the young people to be conscious of the importance of civil rights and human rights, and encouraged them to get involved, and assured them pretty much that there would be human rights and civil rights issues, maybe not the same as those that we've dealt with.
But they would face them.
But
on that note, I have to bring the conclusion. I'm sorry we're out of time, but on behalf of the panel and our staff, thank you for being with us on this program. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite you to be with us again next week at this same time, when we will discuss yet another issue. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
The North Idaho College Public Forum was videotaped live from the studios of Instructional Technology on the campus of North Idaho College for viewing at this more appropriate time. We invite you to join us again next week for another all-new edition of the North Idaho College Public Forum on this public television station.